Good morning and welcome to those of you watching and to the candidates. My name is Kristen Malone and I'm co-president of the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn along with Erica Nelson. Thank you for joining us for this Glenbard District 87 School Board Candidates Forum. This year there'll be 4 open school board positions and 8 candidates on the ballot. Voters will cast a vote for up to 4 candidates. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League works to increase understanding of the major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Although challenged by the pandemic, for the past 12 months, we have innovated and continued the League's mission of empowering voters and defending democracy, including hosting candidate forums last fall. Today, we're pleased to host this voter information event. This is our 6th and final 2021 candidate forum. The format is virtual. We ask that candidates and viewers eliminate distractions and give the forum their undivided attention as they would for an in-person event. Our moderator this morning is Barbara Yong. She is a member of the League of Women Voters of LaGrange area. She's a partner of the Chicago law firm of Golan Christie Taglia, where she practices areas of business law, bankruptcy, and commercial litigation. Barbara is also an active member of many women's rights organizations. Welcome, Barbara, and thank you so much for moderating this forum.
Good morning. It's an honor for me to be moderating today's candidate forum. I'd like to begin by reviewing some of the League ground rules. All candidates have signed and returned the ground rules. These rules specify the format, time limits, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum. I will be responsible for enforcing these rules. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with their opening statements. They will alternate the order in which they answer questions, and after the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a closing statement. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for their opening statement, 1 minute for their responses to the questions, and 1 minute for their closing statement. Their responses will be timed, as you will see on the screen. The questions have been gathered in advance from the public. A panel of experienced League members has reviewed the questions and carefully screen them both for appropriateness for office and to avoid duplication. The event today is being recorded. The League claims copyright ownership of any recording or transcript produced from the forum. The forum will be posted in its entirety on the League website, social media platforms, and the Illinois Voter Guide. Any other use of the forum recording requires the express written approval of the League. Audio and video must be broadcast unedited and in its entirety, except by media reporting on our event. Finally, I want to emphasize how grateful we are for these candidates who are not only willing to serve in office, but who have agreed to come here today and participate in our forum. And now I'd ask the candidates, please start your video. Thank you and welcome. We're waiting for Nicole.
Yeah, I'm getting a message. Oh, thank you.
Great. Okay, so now we're going to begin with the opening statements. And as a reminder, you each have 2 minutes. And we're going to begin with Cindy Covelli. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Covelli. I'm a parent of 2 awesome kids. One is a junior at college and one is a student at Lombard East. I've been a Lombard taxpayer for over 20 years, chosen in part by the great schools and high quality teachers. I've been a teacher over 25 years in special ed and ESL. I'm also certified to be an administrator and a special ed administrator. I also am part of the Lombard East pandemic team and the district pandemic team. I'm a lifelong learner. Last semester, I took a class specifically for special ed students in the remote world. I am running to be a voice for the unserved and underserved. I'm running to change the climate of board meetings from divisive to inviting and transparent. I am running to get students back into school full time if they so desire, or to enhance remote learning as it should be in order to serve the most students. I am also running for those greater board transparency and more effective leadership and enhanced community engagement. Thank you.
All right, next opening statement, Nicole Dawson.
Thanks to everyone for your time this morning. I'm Nicole Dawson, a 16-year resident of D87 with a long history of leadership within my school and local community, including service as president and vice president of PTC and chaired multiple enrichment programs and events within the schools, and board service and active membership with the Glen Ellyn Junior Women's Club, whose programs support many needs within our community. I also bring my parent voice, a very important yet underrepresented voice on our current board. I have a student in D87 and 2 more entering the district in the coming years. And as a parent, I have a vested interest in now and for many years to come in the curriculum and enrichment programs available to our students. My professional experience in human resources, specifically developing team building and collaboration exercises, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, implicit bias training, and career development plans, is also very applicable to the board role. I'm running because diversity in thought, skills, and experience is critical to ensuring the board meets its primary and most important responsibility of student advocacy. I and my D87 students first team bring diversity to board planning and decision-making, representing no constituency other than our students and families. We'll work to proactively in the short term academic and social emotional obstacles we currently face due to the decisions and lack of planning from the current board, and in the long term to ensure transparency, a collaborative and welcoming environment, and representation of our diverse student population in decisions around curriculum and extracurricular activity opportunities.
Okay, next candidate, David Dejanovich.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. My name is David Dejanovich. My family includes my wife, Amy, and our 2 children. One is in D87, the other is a 6th grade. Lived in the area for nearly 6 years and came to this area due primarily to the school district. My background, it's in financial management, auditing, technology improvements. I volunteered in youth sports, church, and other food pantries. I'm primarily running because I'm a parent. As a parent, we understand what the students have gone through as we see it and live it every day. Due to the pandemic, I believe mental health is going to be the next issue. As a parent of a special needs student of a wonderful son in high school, we encourage him, like so many other families who can relate to our story, to be the best advocate that he can be. We know through his journey, if people are willing, they could come to an understanding of what it means to walk in his shoes. I look forward to that day. Our community has an opportunity to gain diversity on the board. If elected, I will be able to represent and understand the communities that are less served. I come from the private sector, which helps me look at things through a different lens. My discipline, not only in finance, auditing, and contract negotiation, but I feel communication and transparency are core to a successful board. I'd be honored to have your vote and look forward to the questions today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next opening, and again a reminder, you have 2 minutes. Kermit Eby.
Hello, thank you so much for hosting this wonderful forum. My name is Kermit Eby. I'm deeply humbled to be running in this race with so many incredibly qualified people. I've learned so much from my colleagues, Bob and Judith and Maria, in this journey. I am also a parent of 4 children. I have 2 grandchildren. My oldest is a professor in university at Albany. And my 3 children who are living with us in Lombard are 2 of them go to Glenbard East High School and another will be going next year. One of the reasons we moved to Lombard 9 years ago was because of the high schools, because of the quality education, and because of the diversity that's represented by class, by race, by religion, by ethnicity. And I want to be a part of that celebration. I've been an educator for 40 years. I'm currently a retired history teacher from Naperville North High School, where I taught for 33 years. I'm also now a current adjunct faculty member at Wheaton College and North Central College and University of Illinois, Chicago, where I've been enrolled as a doctoral student as well, working on a dissertation on transgenerational dialogue. I think the most important reason that I'm running is because of what we've seen, the divisiveness that we've seen in the last 4 years. It's not unusual in American history that we have this kind of divisiveness and a lack of recognition of why we need empathy and concern for all peoples. But it's also my civic responsibility, my civic duty. I've been teaching this history and these civics lessons my entire life, and I've been involved in the civil rights movement since I was 5 years old. Hopefully we can come together and work together cooperatively to build our schools and maintain the quality education that we've come to.
Okay, and with this opening statement, Bob Friend.
Thank you again thank you for hosting this event. I always say a yearly or a 4-year event when you're running for as a candidate. I'm Bob Friend. I live in Lombard. I've lived in Lombard for 40 years. I'm married to Susan and I've raised 2 daughters who both graduated from Glenbard East. I've been on 87's board, Glenbard 87's board since 2009 and watched the changes. Before that, I had board experience with 10 years on Lombard 44 in the elementary district. Proud of what we've been doing in the district. We've seen great changes with our stuff. We've seen modernization of our buildings. We working on energy efficiency, lighting. All 4 buildings are now air conditioned so that there's parity among all our students as far as facilities go. We continue to work on curriculum with Dave and Dr. Larson and continue to make our buildings stronger and work to create an environment that's pleasing to all who come to our buildings. And we continue to raise the bar for our students as well. We've added AP courses. We've been testing and supporting our students through that. And we also do it now through summer school, seeing the numbers of summer schools students raised to help them with bridge classes and other things too is very important to me. So I look forward to seeing what goes on in the coming years and know where we're at and feel that I can be an advantage to being on the board for another 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, and now we welcome Jennifer Gendris.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gendris, and I'm running for re-election. All kids living in the United States have the right to a free public education, and our Constitution requires that all kids be given an equal educational opportunity, no matter what their race, their ethnic background, religion, sex, whether they are rich or poor, citizens or not. This past year has been a tough year for education in meeting the rights of its young citizens. Did you feel that your child had been denied this right compared to students elsewhere in the country? Did you feel that your student with an IEP or 504 did not have their needs met by your school? Did you feel helpless to do anything about it? Did you feel that the public education system had its own agenda and was deaf to the needs of your child? Pandemic or not, how often do you feel this way? The answer, my fellow parents and students, should be never. That feeling happened to me 8 years ago when I attended a board meeting of over 100 parents and students attempting to get the school board to allow Illinois State Board of Education rule that was already on the books to allow PE waivers for students in marching band and junior and senior athletes to obtain. Despite an overwhelming presence of students and parents, the board decided to vote no on this option. And this is why you have me right now on your school board. I ran for election, I won, and I saw to it that the board could allow changes and make it work for students. For the past 8 years, I listened to the needs of parents and students, and I advocate for you. While the Glenbard School District has a wonderful, diverse, and large population, there should never be a time that any parent feels that they can't bring their needs forward to the district staff, the administration, or school board, or feel that their needs are taken lightly. I'm just a mom, but I'm fighting for what's best for kids. Thank you.
Now I invite Maria Vera to give her opening statement.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, the League of Women Voters, for this opportunity. I'm a 22-year-old resident of Lombard, and all three of my sons have graduated from Glenbard West here. And I started working early on. I have a long history with the Glenbard schools as a community advocate. I started my work with the Glenbard School District as a community member on the Minority Student Achievement Committee in 2010. I helped shape the dialogue around the achievement gap with stories of experience, and the board listened and created goals to close those gaps. My work demonstrated my focus on bringing educational equity to all Glenbard students. Today, we have over 90% of our students in physics and algebra 2 by their junior year. We have increased the number of underrepresented students by 30% that are participating in AP classes with success. I have been directly involved in creating better access for non-English speaking parents to fully engage in parent-teacher conferences by training students to act as interpreters and focusing these students on bridging the language gap between teacher and parent. Students have learned a salable skill, while teachers and parents were more able to join forces in a meaningful way on their student-child class progress and experience. In 2011, I became a community member on the Student Performance and Achievement Committee. This is a committee that considers new courses, grading policy, college matriculation, student achievement, and professional development for teachers. This committee encompasses the core of Glenbard's programs. Since joining the board in 2018, I have since chaired this committee. My leadership is focused on bringing more opportunities for learning and challenging administration on its commitment to equity. The collaboration of board administrators, community members continues to challenge.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And our final opening statement, Judith Weinstock.
Hey everyone, I'm Judith Weinstock and I currently serve as board president of District 87, and I am looking to get elected to my third term. I'm really honored to be part of a slate called Glenbard Strong that includes Bob Friend, Maria Vera, and Kermit Eby. We also have a website, www.glenbardstrong.org, where you can find out a lot more information about us. I'm really pleased to be here today because I'm running for 3 reasons that I think are important. One is to maintain consistency in making science-backed decisions about opening or reopening our schools. A second is to ensure fiscal responsibility. And the third reason I am running is to continue Glenbard's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I thought it was telling that last night at the Lombard Area Racial Justice Forum that the other slate decided to be absent. And I think that speaks volumes about their lack of commitment to equity and diversity. My Glenbard roots are very deep. I taught for 33 years at Glenbard West, and during that time, I received the University of Chicago's Outstanding Educator Award. My children attended District 41 and 87, and I've lived in Glen Ellyn since 1979, so I've been around for a long time. I've been endorsed by the Daily Herald, by the Glenbard Education Association, and also SciPac, a national organization that supports decisions based on science for public health. Under my presidency, our board earned from the Illinois Association of School Boards the Good Governance Award. After 8 years on the board, I'm proud of what we've done. We have our students enrolling and graduating from college at higher than the national average. We're regularly recognized for our fiscal stewardship, but there's more work to be done. We need more dual credit courses. We need to work on our facilities, and we need to continue our equity and inclusion journey. So vote for Judith Weinstock, April 6th. Thank you.
Okay, now we move into the question and answer portion of our forum. And I'm going to begin with candidate Dawson. And here's the first question. Beyond opening the schools, what are the most important issues facing District 87?
Well, in the short term, the schools are starting to open. So in the short term, we need to address a couple of things. First and foremost, where have our students, what have they missed in their academic progress? So there needs to be some testing to identify what those gaps are. We've seen a lot of testing fall by the wayside, be pulled. We need something standardized for our students to identify where those learning gaps are. We then need to look at the resources and invest in the resources to make sure we close those gaps. I would suggest in some cases through specialized programs, intervention planning. Secondly, we're going to need to look at what we need to help our kids with social emotional transition back into the school place. So for me, those are two immediate needs that we're going to have to identify and invest in resources to help.
All right, same question. Candidate Dejanovich.
Thank you. Yes, I think beyond the schools opening, the most important issues, I believe, are the student testing assessments, which have not been conducted and don't plan to be conducted, as well as mental health. I know that there's been some knocking on doors of students that are classified as high risk, one way to engage. However, it's not the only way. I feel that the board is out of touch as to how the youth communicate. I've reached out to a highly reputable nonprofit Illinois entity that has proven success with engaging students on the social emotional side. They co-partner with text helplines that uses algorithms to determine the heightened severity of response time. The service has saved 18 lives this year. They have noted that during the pandemic, there's been physical abuse up, loneliness, anxiety, depression, and stress. So I feel that those are the two issues that should be allocated resources to.
All right, candidate Eby, your thoughts on the most important issues?
Well, I begin with saying that it's just as important to open hearts and minds as it is to open schools. It's critical, as David said, that we talk to students and parents in the community about how to support students who are struggling. I have one child who's struggling, another one who's excelling. And so we need to take into consideration not only the diversity of our student body, but also the faculty. So I would say maintain the progress that has been happening over the last 4 to 10 years. And also, like Jennifer said, maintain that Democratic and Republican advocacy for people to participate, just like the League of Women Voters advocates. We do accept and allow and welcome participation. That's what this country is great about. And so to end that, I would say that our country is about our diversity and about maintaining the right for individuals and groups to participate equally in our schools. So open the minds and hearts of people and the schools.
All right, candidate Friend, what do you believe are the most important issues beyond opening the schools?
Well, I think when we get our students back in, I think we'll see students are resilient. I feel that there'll be support there to help them. The district has plans. So how do we help the students with whatever they need? I think testing is going to be an important part of it. I think the state is mandatory, is going to require the SATs. Some of the tests may not be right away, but they'll be caught up. I think in person, when they're back in, to get the help with their supports in the buildings will be what they need. And we have the tutoring, the support, like I say, support study halls, doing what they need to do. And I think just the camaraderie of being in the buildings with their teachers is going to be a marvelous thing for those to see. And I look forward to seeing how well that we can maintain it, what we need to do.
All right, candidate Andrus, same question.
I think immediate focus should be on 3 areas. Mental health. It's going to be quite an adjustment for students to come back from a comfy half-day schedule. We're going to have to be developing their grit and resilience and assimilation back into an environment that they're not used to. I think students' assessment should be a focus, because if we don't know where our students are at, we don't know where we're going. And third, I think we should be focusing on our schools to be a place of collaborative truth-seeking, where diverse teachers and students approach problems and questions from different points of view in pursuit of knowledge, discovery, growth, to expose any falsehoods in teaching. Right now, I think there's a fear of shame and ostracism from different points of view, and I think that has no place in schools.
All right, candidate Vera, same question.
Yes, I think that there are three really important points here. The social emotional learning is really key to getting our kids back into school, providing them the resources, assessing them where they're at, and being able to help them move forward with the current situation. Mental health, needing and providing the resources, doing some one-on-one work with students, in addition in doing some group work that can be student-led. Also establishing trust with the parents in our community. I think it's really important that this pandemic has put in some situations that have become difficult and challenging barriers. So I think working together, we can achieve these goals.
All right, candidate Weinstock, what do you believe are the most important issues?
I think one important issue is that our community needs some healing after going through the isolation and the divisiveness of this pandemic. I think that some of that can be broached through better communication with parents, as well as dealing with the emotional needs of our students. There's been a great deal of isolation, which leads to depression. Of course, adolescent psychology is always a little crazy anyway. I think we always are dealing with situations with students that need to be handled by our counselors or our school social workers. I also think that the kind of demographics that we have demand that we find ways to reach our traditionally underrepresented students in a much more effective manner. So I would say that's those three things that we need to look at the most. Thank you.
All right, and same question, candidate Covelli.
Yeah, so gosh, there's so many of the same things. The equity and equality needs to be keeping addressed. Learning gaps need to be addressed, not only addressed, but we need to assess what the gaps are to begin with in order to know where we are going. I think we need to continue on the journey of AP and dual credit versus technology. Glenbard East, for example, has 2 dual credit classes and over 20 AP classes. Getting more dual credit classes could help those in need to get college credits without having to pay for them as much. Trust is fragile. I also believe we need to work on better trust amongst parents and the board. Greater transparency on the board. Of all the incumbents, only Jennifer Gendris did not endorse, have been endorsed by the GEA, and a few days later, the GEA got a 1-year contract extension. I'm sure parents would love to know how that came into play. So those are my top concerns.
All right, and now we move on to question 2, and we begin with candidate Dejanovich. What role in governance does a school board play in supporting a working relationship between the community, teachers, and administration?
Well, thanks. So the working relationship should be, first of all, the board is around the vision and direction, maintaining the budget, the caretaker of the funds, the data points to monitor it, and to represent the community, which I feel has been missing here. In addition, the board also hires a superintendent. Generally, the board is the what of the organization in terms of those pieces that I mentioned. The administration then executes the how as to how things will be maintained. So I feel that with greater transparency, community representation, going out and working with different groups and being an advocate for the best academic experience that students can have is my focus.
All right, candidate Eby, same question.
I would say that the school board is representative of our schools, and so therefore we need to continue that tradition, that we maintain a relationship with businesses, with mosques, with churches, with synagogues, with all people in the community. We represent 8 different communities that if you go across North Avenue, you recognize that there are vast differences in socioeconomic opportunities and opportunities to participate in our program. So a school board member needs to be not only aware of our students' needs, but also teachers. I don't see anything inconsistent with the teacher negotiating with teachers to maintain quality staff and faculty. I also recognize the incredible pressure that's been placed on administrators and teachers. So I want to open up that dialogue, not close it down with a fear of, I think the fear probably comes from a group of individuals that would discriminate against people who have a mind for social justice.
Okay, moving on. Candidate friend, your thoughts on this?
Well, as a board member, the pandemic has really created a different environment than last year. But, in the past years, we've always had a good communications and working with our community. We hold our board meetings in our buildings, rotating them around each of the 4 high schools we're in. We also take our meetings to TCD one time a year, and we also meet in the senior center in Glendale Heights. So the communities out there have a chance to be part of our stuff. We also offer families a chance to be on, citizens can be on our committees as a citizens advisory, finance. We have 2 positions on each meeting, and the biggest thing is to get our parents back involved. I think everybody says it's the board, but yet if we don't hear it from our buildings, it's the buildings that have to be the ones that are the front line for us. We only.
Thank you. Candidate Gendris, your thoughts on this?
Repeat the question.
Absolutely. What role in governance does a school board play in supporting a working relationship between the community, teachers, and administration?
Thanks.
The school board commits to a vision for student achievement, and we set the goals to make sure that what we do drive us to meet our vision, and that will involve our teachers and our community with their desires and our student needs. We'll set policies, and we provide the resources for reaching those goals that we set. The administration will take those visions and goals that we have. They'll provide us data to see how those goals are being achieved. And they know the operations of the buildings, they know their staff, and they will figure out how to actually help us reach those goals.
All right, candidate Vera.
Yes, I believe that this is a response that really relates to having shared goals. The shared goals of the students, both academically and with ESL. We must all look at the success of these. It's also important that we be able to build trust by open dialogue, transparency, and respect for one another. It's particularly important to hear our parents, and especially in these times that has been so difficult for everybody. And we want to hear from parents that usually do not come forward and have difficulties navigating this current situation. So we must continue to create avenues for parent involvement, especially with these parents, and create success for our students to achieve academically, all students.
Candidate Weinstock.
Sure. I kind of see the Board of Education as the intersection of students, parents, staff, kind of that focal point. It's true that we have very prescribed roles as board members and as a board in terms of where the decisions that we can make. However, collaboration is very important. And I think that the fact that 4 of us were endorsed by the Glenbard Education Association says a lot about the fact that we work collaboratively and we have the respect of those teachers. With respect, we can make decisions that move our district forward. And I would hope that we continue to do so in the future.
All right, candidate Covelli, your thoughts.
Yeah, so the board is there to represent public interest and ensure that the district runs smoothly, provides updated policies as necessary, provides direction on basis for decision-making, and they're policymakers. They need to forge consensus and set a vision and let their constituents know what that vision is. I believe in order to do this, a board really needs to engage the community more, needs to have community involvement, value the community and its input of all stakeholders, the students, the teachers, the parents, taxpayers. We need to regularly measure the return on investment, meaning our students learning. Is money being spent in the right ways? Are teachers getting what they need? Are students getting what they need? We need to make sure that the board needs to make sure they are transparent in what they are doing. We need to allocate resources as necessary and make sure that that equality, equity gap is filled.
All right, and final word on this question, candidate Dawson.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the board is there to weigh in and to provide guidance on decisions around our curriculum and policy. The guidance, of the board, the decisions that are being made is with consideration for the established goals of the district, as well as what available resources we have. I am a true believer the board represents the student, community, teacher, staff needs, strong need for collaboration, strong need to present a welcoming environment for feedback from all of these constituencies, not putting more importance in one over the other, not representation solely for the teachers, not representation solely for the staff and community, but really collectively for all. And to ensure that there needs to be open two-way communication, we need to be accessible, we need to be responsive, we need to truly be listening to all voices to ensure that the needs of all of our diverse community are met.
All right, and we're staying with the topic of collaboration, and we're going to begin this question with candidate Eby. If you are a current board member, in what ways have you worked collaboratively with other board members? If you will be new to the board, how would you strive to work collaboratively?
Collaboration not only requires listening, it also requires an empathy for everybody that we represent. So working with other school board members as a first-time candidate, I've already worked and learned so much from the other school board members by the language that they use, by their priorities, by their representation. And just like in a democracy, when an individual is elected by 52% of the vote, they still represent everybody in the community. So how do you extend that in collaboration with your colleagues effectively? I think it requires a working relationship with administrators, teachers, and primarily students, listening to the students. That's going to be the next great public forum, when the students lead the public forum in a couple weeks and ask us the real questions.
All right, candidate Friend, your thoughts on collaboration?
Collaboration, I think the board has collaborated, listening to what I view myself as more of a listener than a talker, but I do believe in what we do in our district, listening to all of our stakeholders, collaborate with our board members on discussions, and be ready to listen to what they say, and not only our district, but fellow districts in the community, and make informed decisions on how we're going to react and do what we think is right, and listen to the best possible sources of information we have. And that's what we have to do, and do it safely. So do it safely for all our students and faculty and the entire the community. Thank you.
Candidate Gendris, same question.
Yeah, I work with my fellow board members all the time. We're on different committees together. We have, phone calls where we regularly, just discuss issues that are hot and just in general weekly. I am very big on making sure that our discussions are never a prearranged deal with like special interest groups. I mean, our board president 2 years ago resigned over the issue that our board was being taken in a different direction because some members of the board decided to go ahead and meet with a special interest group, and it didn't include other board members. That wasn't right, and we lost our board president over it. I'm not about that.
All right, candidate Vera.
Yes, I think it's really important to have a strong collaboration among board members. I've been honored to work with our current board, and I find that one of the most important pieces of this relationship is being able to listen. The listening is key not only to what a board member may feel or think or facts that they provide, but it gives you a way to make an informed decision on matters that are important. Speaking to each other on all issues is critical, especially those issues that most impact our students, all of our students. And there may be times where we don't agree on everything. So we need to know how to agree to disagree, but continue to support the board in its decision and its work.
Candidate Weinstock.
Yes, as board president, I have a lot of responsibility around collaboration, and the past year has proved to be quite a challenge with the differing opinions that we have on our board. One of the things that I instituted was a one-to-one set of phone calls that we rotated throughout the 6-7 weeks, where we'd each call another board member to just kind of talk and hash out any problems we're having. I've had the board go into closed session for board self-evaluations, where we've talked very honestly about our differences and our difficulties. It's very important that in our committee work, we can be open and honest as we talk about the various issues. And the board always works from making decisions by consensus. Not everyone will agree, but once we've made a decision, we have a commitment as board members to honor and support that decision, which unfortunately hasn't always happened. And that has created even more divisiveness. So collaboration is extremely important. I've worked quite a bit to help that.
All right, candidate Covelli, your thoughts on collaboration?
Yeah, so collaboration, super important. As teachers, we collaborate all the time in PLCs, PLC leaders. I think that what's important, it hasn't been mentioned here, is norms. In collaboration, norms are listed at every board meeting. However, they're not always followed up. Behavior matters, and people watch that. Listening and discussing is important, but also going back and reevaluating after planning and saying, did this work? Was this effective? Not. We need to come back together again and collaborate again to get different input. Having working relationships, as has been mentioned here, is very important too. In schools, you're talking about with many stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, administrators. Everyone needs to know that it's an open place. It's a safe place to talk, and that opinions will matter, and that people will be heard, and that what people say will actually be considered, thought about, and given an appropriate response, timely and professionally.
All right, candidate Dawson, your view.
Thank you. Well, I would like to start by saying collaboration is really easy when things are status quo and when everybody agrees for the most part. In the challenging times, which we've seen over the past 12 months, it is even more critical to be collaborative, to actively seek out information, differing points of view, and to strive to find creative solutions. Ultimately, the board is a team. So in order for a team to work effectively, collaboration is critical. To be effective, we need to be open to hearing different points of view. We need to actively seek out those different points of view. We need to build trust amongst each other for our team to be effective. And it's not about winning amongst the team itself. We win when our students excel based on as a result of the decisions that we've made and the guidance that we've provided.
All right, and last candidate to address this question, candidate Dejanovich.
Thank you. I think that working collaboratively involves active listening, understanding of opinions and alternate views. I've worked across many different groups to coordinate different types of projects on that. I believe equity and diversity and the trust factor is key, that there are no real prearranged outcomes. I find it interesting that in terms of collaborative, it's community input that I think is key in soliciting that. Current board members have stifled and threatened to remove people in discussions. There is a current board member that, or current candidate that's running for office that is looking to create shock value in the organization. I don't think that's how we get to where we want to get working together in positive relationships.
Okay, now we move on to the next question, which oddly enough has to do with soliciting parental and community feedback. So we're going to begin with candidate friend. And here's your question. How will you solicit parental and community feedback, and how will you use the information you receive if it conflicts with your own opinion?
I think if nothing else, this pandemic has taught us to solicit more information from our parents. When it's done at the district level, as a board member, we we've learned that we have not been seeking maybe enough information as to what we're doing. By allowing the district to do it, and then the administration passes it down to us and shares it with us, is the way it should be. But as far as myself, I would like to reach out to the community. I've talked to some of the community people in Lombard here about what's been going on and how we're dealing with how we've been dealing with the pandemic and where we're at with the schools. But I think a lot of it is, like everybody says, we have to work on rebuilding our trust in the community and what we do. You know, how we do as an educator as well, and what the district's goals and results are, and remember our students and what we need to be doing for them.
All right, candidate Tendris.
Yeah, we have to do better at outreach in reaching our very diverse populations. It's very clear to me that at board meetings, and we're just getting a similar group of people, whether it's a not inviting environment for individuals, or maybe the times are bad. So I think a new board needs to actually do direct outreach, because we can't guess what people who live in different communities that are different than us will want to help their students achieve in schools. We actually have to go find out. We have to listen to them. Our candidates in the Glenbard Student First attended a diversity, equity, and inclusion seminar at the Park District. And sadly, even there weren't a lot of people of color that attended. So I think we really need to do better outreach and meet these people in their communities where they are.
All right, candidate Vera.
Yes, I think this is really important and critical to the work of the board in order to understand what the needs are and to try and meet these needs. It's important for us to embrace the feedback of all of our community members. And as mentioned, you know, we still see that there's certain communities that haven't come forward, and which says to me that we haven't done a good enough job of reaching out to them or making them comfortable enough to come out to hear their voices. So that's part of, you know, my intent is to be this voice of that community. I think that the community outreach is really key. I myself have gone to many community events and having one-on-one conversations prior to COVID, now on Zoom, to have one-on-one conversation with some of these parents. And I find out some very simple things of just not even knowing when parent-teacher conferences are, or certain events, or what does remote learning mean. So it's really important for us to keep speaking with our community and understand these needs. Thank you.
All right, candidate Weinstock.
I think also that I agree with Jennifer. We didn't do the best job we should have in communicating with parents originally during this pandemic. We had a lot of issues and a lot of things we had to work our way through. And frankly, communicating with parents fell off our radar. And we're trying as a board to do a much better job. One of the ideas that I floated with Dr. Larson that he likes is to establish a series of town hall meetings and have those in each of our buildings so that we are hitting all of our communities and soliciting feedback from them. Feedback is very important. We need to hear from more of our parents. What often happens in the Glenbard community is that when parents are happy, they don't come to our board. And when they're unhappy, they will show up. And so we will get repeating groups that are upset. I think that their input is important, but I think in general, our parents are happy with what we are doing. So we need to do a little bit more outreach. We can do a better job, but we're not bad at it either.
Candidate Covelli, your thoughts on this?
Yes, so outreach. From the very beginning of this election, I have touted town halls. They're a fantastic way to get to know your community and get the community to know you. Besides being in the schools, I think we should also be outsourcing to off-sites. This would be the same for like tutoring, any kind of summer programs that we have to get more people involved, especially if transportation is an issue. I also believe in this regard, we need to serve all four schools equally. We need to be transparent and honest with open lines of communication. Spirit of the law has not changed. We have live streaming and accessible records. However, the letter of the law has changed. Tech has replaced written word. We have digital openness. We have FOIA requests that go out that people see responded to, but don't realize the response could be no. We need better transparency with parents and better opportunities for parents, students, and teachers to speak their words in a safe environment.
Candidate Dawson?
Yeah, there's certainly room for improvement in how in our outreach to our diverse populations in particular, but to the entire community. I think it would help to identify preferred modes of communication. Are people responding to emails? Are they getting on board with text messages? How are we reaching the widest audience? And then in person, listening, creating this welcoming environment that encourages community feedback, doesn't shut it down when presented with an opposing point of view. Unlike the current board, I would certainly work to create that welcoming environment and truly listen and appreciate different points of view. It is the loudest, the squeaky wheel that tends to get the oil, but not everybody's comfortable being that squeaky wheel, even though they may be representative of a greater majority than we believe. So really reaching out proactively to understand what the needs of all are, listening, hearing their points of view, and taking it into consideration.
All right, Candidate Dejanovich, how will you solicit feedback?
I think the town halls are a good example. I know that there's been some use of surveys, but parent committees that are not pre-selected would be best. To go to all schools and to offer different times, dates, weekends. Not everyone has a 9-to-5 job. But I hear from the feedback from parents is that they're not getting their emails addressed. And that other people feel, especially the special needs and special education people, they're not feel like they're being heard. That is the lowest graduation rate of any group, is the special needs. Bob mentions to rebuild trust. So I think the current board is admitting there isn't a trust. And Judith mentioned not doing a bad job. I think she needs to reach out to the community further to hear what people are saying. Thank you.
Candidate Eby.
I know I'm speaking from a privileged position, but listening to some of the critiques here, I know that I've communicated with all of my kids' teachers a dozen times at least. I know counselors with 300 students who've spoken to me and other parents. They are readily accessible. So when we talk about soliciting parental input, I would say we've been doing a good job with that. We have parent volunteers and sports programs with humanities, with the arts, with athletics, PTAs. Parents are actively involved. Now, are we listening? And will these new board members continue to listen to all groups? Will they cross that line, that boundary between them and other people? I mean, from Glendale Heights to Wheaton, from Glen Ellyn to Carroll Stream, can we make those connections? And can we reach out to those parents and those students, especially those students who recognize what they need and will also participate in this process? So we'll continue doing what we've done well.
All right, now we're moving on to the next question. We're going to begin with candidate Gendris. Given widely reported increases in student depression and anxiety, what more can be done to recognize and address student mental health issues?
Well, currently, we don't have enough school counselors. From their professional group, they recommend a one counselor to 250 students, which I actually think is still a lot of students for them to manage. I think with the plethora of funding we've got federally, we got 3 rounds of federal funding. I think our school should basically hire a few more counselors and our psychologists on board. I think it's going to desperately be needed for students. And I think we need to start helping kids learn how to communicate better with one another, learn some resilience and grit. These have been tough times for them, and I think a lot of them are down. Mental health is an illness that a lot of people don't even know that they have. And even if they have it, they still feel a little bit of stigma about getting help. And I think we need to work at eliminating those stigmas.
Candidate Vera?
Yes, I think that with this current situation, it's been really obvious to us that even some underlying depression or mental health issues have really surfaced in big ways, but isolation in and of itself really does impact students and adults. And so having to deal with this is important that we do it in the right way. I think it's important that we really look at our resources and seeing what we can do to provide more, not only counselors, but psychologists. I think it's important to bring bilingual psychologists to help our students who are limited English speaking and their parents. I think that we need to look at how to communicate better with our students and their parents in these moments of mental health and depression. Thank you.
Candidate Weinstock?
I agree with Jennifer. We do need more guidance counselors. That's always been an issue for our students. But beyond that, we also need more social workers. We only have 1 or 2 social workers per building, and those are usually the ones that are providing the most counseling service as opposed to our guidance counselors. Years ago, we used to have small student groups that would gather during lunch periods or off periods to talk with a psychologist or a social worker about mental health issues or trauma. I would like to see that instituted as we come back. And I'd also like to hear from students and get some feedback from them as to what would be helpful for them. What are they experiencing? Is it isolation? Is it depression? Is it feeling a lack of support? Is it social issues about transitioning back into school? So I think we need to hear from them as well in order to establish some sort of plan that will address these problems.
All right, candidate Covelli?
Yes, I'm glad trauma was just mentioned. I am trained in trauma situations with students and ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. Currently, children are mentioned as having PTSD from this COVID situation. Decreased physical activity, decreased time with friends, increased mental health concerns, decreased time spent outdoors. Mental health services are greatly needed. Jen mentioned there are not enough school counselors. It has also been mentioned not enough social workers. An email from my students' counselor last week said they're using the same resources as last year, and that's really concerning to me that we haven't ramped up and revamped the service options that are available to parents and students. I believe that we need to put this front and center on the website, give everyone information and easily accessible. Needs of the students should be first, and perhaps a morning check-in. I do that with my students every day. A morning online check-in takes 10 seconds for a teacher to put it out there. Instant access to how students are feeling and doing that day.
Candidate Dawson?
Definitely additional resources, but in order to, determine how many and what kinds of resources, we need to ask some questions. So outreach to our students. This is, I truly believe, going to be a far more widespread issue than people recognize right now. Mental health issues aren't those that people are typically very open to themselves as being an issue. It's kind of brushed under the rug, and especially within teens, they deal with a lot. So on top of it is a lot of extra. So we need to provide them with tools to help them recognize what issues they may be struggling with that they've just been burying for the past few months. I think if we were to do some kind of a general mental health assessment for our students who raised their hand and felt there was a need, that would go a long way in helping us identify the additional resources that we need. And definitely we need to make these students active contributors to the solution for them.
All right, candidate Dejanovich.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier in my opening, that we've seen the statistics from DuPage County: physical abuse up 25%, loneliness 35%, anxiety, stress 65%, depression 72%. And the DuPage ER visits are up 104% for students in the 10 to 17 year range. We have a strong nonprofit in our community that focuses on resources to students, including ESL, and is ready and willing to help. The talk is talk. We need action, someone who's actually working out there to bring these resources together. What I mentioned earlier is that this group happened to save 18 lives. That's 18 lives that people get to hug at the table, to say that I love you, and to understand what they're going through. And so to me, I'm glad that there's some privilege that some people have mentioned, but my son was recently denied support when he was asked for support in the school.
All right, candidate Eby.
This is a traumatic time for all of us. And for those of us in education, we've experienced it before in different situations, historically and personally. I could speak personally about students at Naperville North that had committed suicide, that had missed treatment. I can talk about how our special education and program became more integrated into the mainstream at our school, and how we continue to facilitate those positive progressive ideas to how to include more kids in more programs, why after school programs are so essential. So from my sister, who is a counselor, a social worker in Carmel, Indiana, was 380, to my brother-in-law who teaches in CPS, and he is the only social worker in one high school. We know there are deficiencies, and we need to continue working on this. The trauma is felt nationally, and I really think that we are a part of the solution if we continue to listen to one another.
All right, candidate Friend.
Okay, granted, we as a district know that there is a need for more counselors, more supports in our buildings. We've continued to work with that. I think some of the ideas I heard here were good, to have student committees or student discussions in the buildings with a moderator taking notes, or somebody that the students can trust and they feel respect, or building people that they feel respected to, that they can come and talk to. Maybe it's not a counselor, maybe it's one of their teachers, and I think our educators in our buildings would be more than willing to listen to some of this and find what we need. But it's not going to be a quick fix. As much as I'd like to snap our fingers and say we're back in school, everybody's happy and walking away from it, it's not going to happen that quickly. So we have to find a balance of what we can do to help them and make sure we do keep them in our hearts, to make sure that we're doing the best for everybody in this community. That includes finding translators. Okay, thank you.
All right, and next question, and we begin with candidate Vera. What is your commitment to ensuring that the rights of LGBTQ students are addressed and upheld?
Well, I think it's important that we uphold all student rights, and in particular, the LGBTQ has had a long struggle in finding their place in the school system. I think we've done some good work towards achieving this goal by passing and changing policies last 2019. So it's really important for us to continue this work. I think it's important to hear what their concerns are. We know kids will be kids, and sometimes issues continue. And again, it's important for our students to be able to speak with somebody, speak with an adult, speak with a counselor, to address whatever issues may come. because it is important that they be recognized and have the same opportunities of success and academic achievement as all students do.
All right, same question, candidate Weinstock.
This particular issue has been one that I worked on, and I was key in changing our board policy about access and opportunities for transgender students. That policy changed so that we have private changing rooms in our locker rooms, so students can be called by the name that they would like to be called by, not what their birth name was. This started when a parent came to my front door and said, I have a transgender son who will be going to Glenbard West next year, and I need some support. With that, I began to collaborate with other board members, and actually this is the group that Ms. Gendris was referring to as not being open and a special interest group. We invited all board members to that and eventually got consensus as a board to change these opportunities and make sure that every student was given the same playing field in our schools. It's extremely important that we continue that. And one of the things that I'm working on now is a community drop-in center for LGBTQ kids, because we really need that in our areas. Thank you.
Candidate Covelli.
Yes, so in regards to this, I believe we're off to a good start with some of the initiatives that have been put in place. Equity is the right to a fair and inclusive educational opportunities for all students to ensure success. So part of ensuring the success of all students is to create social development that allows for each student to be inspired and empowered in their own learning. So I feel that this is an important topic that needs further discussion. I agree with counselors needing to be available. We also need to work on having outside resources available and maybe having other people coming in and speaking to all students about this interest group. All rights should be at all times made important and made to feel important. All voices should be heard, and the board has a duty to act upon all of those voices in a responsible and respectful manner.
Candidate Dawson.
Yeah, I like the work that we've begun in our district on this topic. This is work near and dear to my heart, given what I do professionally in diversity, equity, inclusion. Raising awareness, I think, is critical. So continuing to build upon the programs and policies we already have in place, seeking student input, certainly listening, considering the resources that we have available to them, considering resources that we don't currently provide. Talking about part of raising awareness, teaching all of our students collectively, not just the LGBTQ group, but all diversity groups, teaching everyone about implicit bias. So we all have an innate, no matter what group you are, you come with implicit bias, and that's important to remember. So more education around implicit bias, what that means, how we overcome that. And to me, that is hugely raising self-awareness. So ultimately we can provide a rich and robust experience, both learning and extracurricular for all of our students.
All right, candidate Dejanovich.
Yes, I think this is the one area from the discussion that I had with the group that recognizes in the preventative measures for students where this is where there's the highest suicide rates within the LGBTQ community. They need more support. It might be worthwhile for board members to go to their meetings and hear what they have to say, hear what their concerns are. I think the awareness is key for us if we're going to also include it as awareness for the students to know what's involved. So to me, I think this is one of the critical areas where we are seeing the most issues when it comes to suicide, and I think it's very important to address.
All right, candidate.
Nicole and David had really good answers. I take this subject very personally, especially in light of what happened in Atlanta 3 days ago, or in Georgia 3 days ago. We have to take a stand against hatred and what has motivated that behavior in so many people. And one of the places we can start is in our schools. I was one of the founders of the Gay Straight Alliance at Naperville North in 1999, and there was a part of the community that opposed that. recognition of our gay and our LGBTQ community. And I've had students who've come out to me and needed the support that we provided them with counselors and with clubs. So we need to celebrate our diversity, but also teach that hatred is wrong and that violence follows that kind of hatred that is stirred up in our community. So again, David is so right. These kids deserve not only our attention, but our support. And I really, well, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate friend?
Okay, well, I've been sitting on the board, like Judith said, when we started to hear about this and listening to our students, what they needed and how we could support them. Sitting on the Finance and Facilities Committee, we started looking at what we do as far as restrooms, facilities, making private bathrooms more accessible to our students. We've done that through our renovations all the time. What we do with the locker rooms to make it a one-on-one stall for anybody in there. Partitions, and we do provide counselors and listen to what they need and try to address their needs all the time, especially in the facilities as part of it, and making sure that they have what they need to do their personal business. But yet it's kind of, you know, counselors are what we're doing. So I guess that's what I'll stop there.
All right, last word on this, Candidate Gendris.
Yeah, as a board member, we want our students, all students, to feel accepted, safe, and loved in our schools. LGBTQ students, they have diverse needs where they are on their journey in who they identify as and in what they feel is different. And we have student supports for each of these students to help them with what they need to adjust in the schools. We have support services, names and pronouns being used, school record modifications. But I do want to address that regarding what Judith said, I was not involved in, neither was the board president in the discussions early on. You don't have a board member resign over 10 years on the board if he did feel that we weren't being included in discussions and board protocol was not being followed.
All right, and now we're going to have our final question. We're going to squeeze one more in, and we begin with Candidate Weinstock. How can the district career counseling services be improved?
We used to have a much better career services where in each building we had a career counselor that would call in every sophomore to speak about careers, and we discontinued that because of financial difficulties. I do think that's something that we need to reinstate. Every student should have a very particular plan that as a ninth grader, they know what their journey will be, not only through high school, but also post-secondary. Are they going into the military? Are they going to college? Are they going into the workforce? Are they going to professional school? So I think career counseling is extremely important. I think we should go back to the model we had before, and we really need to get every student on the same path of having a plan and continuing to follow that so that they can have the life outcome that they want.
All right, Candidate Covelli.
Yeah, so this question is super dear to me. I have one student who was fully an AP student, one student who is currently a AP and TCD student. I really think we need to promote the trades more. We need to make them equally as important as AP classes. Kids need to know early so that they can plan to go to TCD classes. Otherwise, it will not fit your schedule senior year. I suggest a trades night. Promote the trades in trades night, just like we promote the students who are getting sports scholarships. Let's have a trades night. Let's bring trades people in. Let's hear what they have to say. Let's understand what they do and qualifications. Schools, especially Lombard West, to my understanding, see TCD as a place where only bad kids go. I really think that needs to be changed and it needs to be improved so that all students, regardless of what their plans are after high school education, can be successful and feel empowered in their decisions.
Candidate Dawson, same question.
Yeah, Illinois actually has a really nice program, Illinois PACE, and it's a guideline. I saw it presented in a recent board committee meeting. It's really fantastic, but after seeing the slide, I said, so what are we doing with this? Are we doing this? Because I didn't get a conversation with my sophomore's counselor, he's a junior now, until well into the year. So I do this in my professional career planning. I think we need to start the process earlier. We need to make it more robust. We perhaps need some updated tools for assessing, where these kids' interests lie and how to connect those interests to a possible career path, as well as extending that, what their interests are, career path, what schools are best, identify the best schools to get them there. Really just starting the process earlier in the game, as early as 8th grade, I think can make a big impact as well. And then providing them additional resources. If we engage with the community businesses now, we can do more of that.
Thank you. Candidate Dejanovich, career counseling.
Yeah, I think this is critical. My career I've spent being a mentor to people to determine what it is they want to do and where they want to go. I think addressing issues with the students from a career night on a monthly basis on a rotating location from technical and trades to professional. I think the counselors will be overburdened, so we have to bring in additional resources. But kids need to know that they're self and career ready. We want to get kids graduating and we want to help them get there. Better choice in curriculum as well. I have to say, in a personal experience, I remember going to freshman night with my son, and I believe that program needs a total revamp. It was almost impossible to speak to a teacher, to understand what his choices were, where to go. So that's just a personal experience that I was involved in, and it did not go well.
All right, candidate Eby.
Again, I'm going to echo many of the thoughts and the positive contributions that each of these candidates could make in this discussion. Bob has personally worked on improving the trades education in the schools. And I know also there are other routes in artificial intelligence. My son-in-law just got a job in AI, IT alternatives. One of my favorite classes was wood shop, way back in 1971. I think I'm giving away my age here, but the kids do need alternatives. Not everybody's going to be college bound. We have COD that we can encourage kids to find classes in. We also need to continue to encourage our music and theater programs, because that's not necessarily an ordinary route to after high school. And also, there are just so many ways in which we can encourage this. And all of us here are advocating for an increased role in our counselors' responsibilities. And I think we can find common ground on that.
Candidate Friend, career counseling.
Career counseling is important because when you look back we just finished what we call a portrait of a graduate. Our goal was to make sure our students were college and or career ready, whether it be TCD or other things. I've been an advocate for the trades, knowing that you sit in the industry and you read how many jobs openings are going to be there, that we don't have people to fill them in the nation right now to take these openings. I've been working with Patrick, one of our assistant superintendents of careers, and trying to get more activities in that. We have TCD. That's a great place to go. It's a shame we're not always filling all the spots. But you talk to some of the other people. We talk about going over to COD for a 2-year degree in some of the trades. It requires more of a skill in college level stuff. There are trade schools, but I don't want to be sending them to some of these schools are just
all right. Thank you. Candidate Gendris.
When you're a kid, you basically know what your parents do and maybe the visible jobs out in the community. I know we have Naviance, but Naviance isn't very personal. I'd like to see what we do for colleges. At the schools, we invite colleges to come in at lunchtime, kids sign up, and they hear what these colleges have to offer. Well, we have fabulous parents in our community, and I know they love to talk about their jobs. So why couldn't we offer something similar where parents could sign up for a lunchtime and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm a NASA engineer, and talk to kids about their careers. What do these parents do? How did they get into that job? How much schooling do you need? What does it cost? What classes should you be taking in high school? That's what do you like about your job? What do you hate about it? That's what kids want to know. So they can kind of maybe have an idea like, hey, this is something I'm interested or hey, this is something I definitely couldn't do. So I would like to see something like that offered on a regular basis. I think we have enough parents who would step up and do that.
And the final word on career counseling, candidate Vera.
Yes, I think that this is critical and something very personal for me as well. We've done a much better job of hiring diverse counselors. And I think it's important that students be able to see themselves in their counselors. So opening up these conversations for college and career readiness, it's really important. This is something I care very much about. I personally have brought professionals from different backgrounds to our underrepresented students to have one-on-one conversations for them to share their journey and to see how it took them to get to where they are and making this a possibility for our students. So I think our career counselors can only enhance this college and career readiness for all of our students, and we must continue to do that.
All right, that wraps up our question portion of the forum, and we move into closing statements. As a reminder, the candidates have 1 minute, and we're going to go back to candidate Covelli.
Okay, 1 minute is so fast. So what, in conclusion, what my D87 slate brings, D87 students first, brings to the many diverse scenarios to the board. I personally am a lifelong learner, current teacher, in the throes with you, parents, students, and teachers. Mental health resources, like I said, I am part of trauma-informed schools. I understand the ACEs and what students may be going through. Curriculum and instruction, IEPs, behavior plans, 504s, all important to equity issues and concerns. My years of training and teaching training has teaching me great insight into best practices, which I feel has been lacking. We need to implement best practices back for all students, including timely feedback and valuing parental input, making learning active, being advocates. The D87 mission is to inspire and empower all students to succeed. As a board member, I would strive to do that mentally, physically, academically, and socially, trying to meet students' needs where they are.
Thank you. Candidate Dawson, your closing statement.
As your elected board member, I will commit to being informed. I'll rely on data. I will seek input from all community constituents in order to make the decisions that positively impact our district policies, our curriculum, and our student interests. I will do so, I'll do this without bias and with consideration for no agenda other than to provide the highest quality education and enrichment opportunities for all D87 students inclusively. I and the D87 Students First team will bring a new perspective to board decisions, will bring diverse skills, and will be representative of the parent voice. We're committed to transparent and interactive communication, equitable policies and programs, superior curriculum, and inclusive student experiences. I hope to earn your voter endorsement because the voter endorsement is the one that really counts. Vote Dawson, Gendris, Covelli, and Dejanovich on April 6th.
All right, candidate Dejanovich.
Yes, thank you all for having us. I think the bottom line is we need a new set of skills and diversity on this board. I wish to bring my skills and experience advising clients, working in contract negotiations, legal and regulatory, and all of those areas to collaborate and make the academic experience truly fulfilling for students. Talk is talk. We really need action, and I think the mental health issue is going to be critical. I hope that I get your vote. Early voting begins March 22nd and election day April 6th. Please visit d87studentsfirst.com to see the rest of what our group represents. And I hope to get input from you. That's what's critical, that you help us be a better board and not be a selective group. Thank you.
All right, closing statement, candidate Evie.
I'd just like to say that I've been encouraged by all of the participation by many different people and many different groups. And I'm proud that our ticket was endorsed by the teachers union. I'm also proud that I was a union member, and I'm proud of the history of unions throughout American history. And it's actually sad that union membership has declined from 40% to about 10%. But what's most important for me is, as a parent, and recognizing the challenges that we face, is that we do actually collaborate and learn from one another and provide a safe learning environment for all our kids, Black, Hispanic, LGBTQ, poor, wealthy. All of the advantages that we've given to some members of the community should be shared with all. We stand for fiscal responsibility, and we also stand for the diversity and of our community by encouraging participation in this very important process called democracy. So thank you for voting for us on April 6th. And thank you,
Candidate friend, your closing statement.
Okay, thank you again for hosting this event. My big thing is I view myself as a listener and a coalition builder, working with the community, listening to what people have to say at the table, either side, not making any rash judgments, but trying to work within administration, talking to other people, talking to the community, being in the background, trying to do what we need to do to make Glenbard a better place. How do we do this? Representing all people, listening to how we do things, listening to what comes, our presentations at our GPS series, listening to other things that happen through the communities, being out there. But I ask for your support, and we would need to do better as a district to make our district better. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gendris, your closing.
Yeah, I'm concerned the public is beginning to, in letters and public support, separate board members who support or don't support decisions the board is discussing regarding the pandemic. Please remember that board members, as well as other candidates, have many other qualities and passions that we bring to the table. The D87 first candidates have a diverse background. We have students in the school, and our students and our children are not far removed from school system as other candidates are. Education has changed dramatically over the years. If reelected, I'm interested in finding students broader opportunities in choices and curriculums to forge their desired path in education. I'm interested in finding more inviting ways to have the board interact with our BIPOC communities so we can listen to their voices and hear their needs and truths. And I'm interested in ensuring students have classes where they can have the ability to ask questions and debate without any risk of censure or backlash. I have always listened to the voices of the parents and students, and I know your concerns are diverse yet equally important, and I hear you.
Thank you. Candidate Vera, your final thoughts.
Yes, I am running for board member for School District 87 because we have accomplished good and measurable work. Education is a key to a student's life success, and every student deserves an equal opportunity to achieve their own personal goals while offering a platform to students to reach their academic potential. That's so important. My collaborative approach is necessary in working with administration and fellow board members to continue to build a strong academic and socially engaging program where students can find success. The values drive me are hard work and recognition that the economic and social arenas are not equal for everyone. I want to work for fairness and objective recognition for all of our students. I hope students are viewed in the classroom and in community for what they can be. These are the citizens and our leaders of our future society, and it's our job as adults to bring them along on their growth path. Please vote Glenbard Strong, Kermit Ebby, Bob Friend, Judith Weinstock, and Mireya Vera. Thank you.
And final word, Candidate Weinstock.
Thank you, first of all, League of Women Voters, for hosting this forum. I think it's important for voters to get to know all of the candidates. As president, I am very proud of our schools and the progress that we've made over the past 8 years. We've air conditioned the schools. We have passed a referendum for $35 million without raising your tax rate. We've done a lot of work with facilities, but we still have a lot more work to do. For instance, we probably have $70 million more work in facilities to do to keep our buildings warm, safe, and dry. We need to reopen schools safely and maintain our excellent programs. And we also need to meet the demands and the needs of our BIPOC students. A vote for Glenbard Strong is a vote for a safe, quality education, fiscal responsibility, and continuing work in equity and inclusion. So please vote Weinstock, Eby, Friend, and Vera on April 6th. Thank you.
So thank you, candidates. Your participation is now complete, and I ask you to stop your video. And our time is up for this morning's forum. I want to thank you for attending. We appreciate your participation, whether you're a candidate or a voter. For 100% nonpartisan election information, please go to the IllinoisVoterGuide.org, powered by the League of Women Voters of Illinois, and visit the Glen Ellyn League website, LWVGE.org, where you will also find a recording of all 6 March 2021 candidate forums. Please remember to vote. It's essential to our freedom and our country. Thank you. It's been my honor to be your moderator, and I wish you a good day.